Intro tonight. I invite you to set aside the weight of the day. Close your eyes. Feel the rise and fall of your breath, and allow your thoughts to drift into the gentle glow of a flickering fire. You are safe. You are warm. And you are about to take a slow, soothing journey through history, where shadows of the past whisper softly, and forgotten stories return like fading echoes.
It is one of the most fascinating paradoxes of human biology that to fall asleep, your body must first let go of its warmth. This is not a metaphor. It is a precise physiological command. As your evening unfolds, the tiny command center in your brain, your suprachiasmatic nucleus, begins its silent work. It signals the pineal gland to release melatonin, the hormone of darkness, into your bloodstream. And this melatonin performs a subtle magic trick. It causes the blood vessels in your hands, your feet, and your face to dilate, to widen, inviting the warmth from your core to radiate outwards, to be released into the air around you.
This drop in core body temperature is one of the most powerful signals your brain receives that it is time, it is safe to sleep. It is a primal signal etched into our DNA over hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. A signal that the hunt is over, the work is done, the danger has passed for now. It is the body's permission slip to rest.
And this biological imperative places us in a direct, intimate conversation with our ancestors. For them, a cold night was not an abstract concept, it was a palpable, existential threat. The cold was an active force, an enemy that demanded strategy, ingenuity, and community to overcome. Their survival, and by extension, their sleep, was not a given, it was a victory, a hard-won triumph of resilience against the elements. Which brings us to the central question that this journey will explore. What can these ancient struggles, this nightly...
As the logical, analytical left side of your brain processes this information, recognizes the truth in it, the creative, intuitive right side of your brain can begin to engage, to wonder, to imagine. And for now, that is all you need to do. Simply allow that part of your mind to open, to become receptive, to drift. There is no effort required here, only a gentle, willing release. Modern research, published in esteemed journals like Nature Sleep and the Journal of Neuroscience, has begun to illuminate what happens inside the incredible universe of your brain when you achieve this state of deep, secure sleep. They have mapped a system known as the glymphatic system. Think of it as your brain's own private overnight cleaning crew. It is a network of microscopic channels that piggyback on your brain's blood vessels. During wakefulness, these channels are largely closed. Your brain is too busy firing neurons, processing information, managing your body. But when you sink into deep, non-REM sleep, these channels expand dramatically. They open wide, and a clear, cleansing fluid, cerebrospinal fluid, washes through these newly widened passages in slow...
And so we begin there, with safety, with warmth,
with the lessons from a time when these things were not assumed, but built, earned, and cherished. Allow yourself now to simply notice the weight of your body, the complete and total support of the surface beneath you. Whether you are on a modern mattress or a simple bed, feel how it holds you. And with your next exhalation, just let go of the need to control anything, the need to hold your muscles tense, the need to think, the need to do anything other than listen to the sound of my voice, and allow yourself to descend just one level deeper into relaxation. Which brings us to the mysterious, almost forgotten practice of the banked fire, a secret we will return to in a moment, a secret that holds the key to preserving your inner calm. But first, bring your awareness to your feet. Notice their temperature. Imagine for just a moment that they are cold, not uncomfortably so, but cool, as if they've been walking on cold stone or hard frozen earth. Feel that slight chill. And now, in your mind's eye, you are being guided to a simple sleeping space. It is not a bedroom as we know it, but a space. And what scientists have just discovered through neuroimaging is that this feeling, this deep, visceral signal of safety and warmth, is what allows the amygdala, your brain's fierce, ancient alarm center, to finally stand down. It's what allows the prefrontal cortex, the worrier, the planner, the incessant problem solver, to power down its relentless analysis. The threat is over. The watch has ended. The night is here for resting. Some researchers, publishing their theories in the Journal of Neuroscience, propose that our dreams,
and which brings us back to that banked fire. In a medieval home, letting the hearth fire die completely was a crisis. Restarting it from nothing was difficult, time-consuming, and sometimes impossible with damp wood. So they developed a brilliant technique, banking the fire. As the evening wound down, they would carefully gather the glowing embers, the hot, enduring heart of the fire, and bury them under a thick, insulating blanket of fine ash. This layer of ash would starve the embers of oxygen, slowing their burn to a near standstill, but preserving their intense heat for hours upon hours. At dawn, one would simply sweep the ash aside, add new kindling and fuel, and coax the preserved heat back into a full, roaring flame with minimal effort. This was a promise of future warmth, a guarantee against the utter cold and darkness of the pre-dawn hours. It was an act of profound trust and foresight. And now, you can learn to do the same with your own inner state. With your next deep, slow inhalation, I want you to imagine drawing a sense of perfect calm, a sense of absolute safety from the air around you, drawing it in through your lungs and directly into the very core of your being. Feel it as a warm, glowing, concentrated light in the center of your chest, your own personal ember. And now, as you exhale,
and what neuroscientists are only now quantifying is that it's during this deep, slow-wave sleep, the state you are gently floating towards, that your glymphatic system becomes most active. And you are drifting deeper into that state now. With every word, every pause, every beat of your own heart, you are moving closer to that deep, cleansing tide. But you are not alone in this rest.
One of the most powerful strategies for survival was community. Imagine the palpable safety of a community around you now, not as a crowd, but as a presence. The quiet, rhythmic, synchronized breathing of others sleeping nearby, all resting together in the shared warmth of a secured space, all safe together, a shared energy of peace that permeates the very air you breathe. There is a deep, unspoken trust in this space. Historically, there was a strategy to this communal sleep. The most vulnerable, the young, the old, the infirm, were placed in the center of the sleeping group. They were protected on all sides by the stronger, warmer body.
The vagus nerve is the commander-in-chief of your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest system. When you feel truly safe, the vagus nerve is activated. It sends signals down your spine, slowing your heart rate, deepening and slowing your breathing, stimulating digestion, and promoting a state of calm. It is the physiological opposite of the fight-or-flight response. It is the state of deep rest, and it is the essential prerequisite for entering the deepest, most restorative stages of sleep. Your body knows how to do this. It is an ancient, sophisticated, self-regulating system. You do not need to make it sleep any more than you need to make your heart beat. You are the beneficiary of this process, not the director of it. Your only job is to provide the conditions of safety, and then get out of the way. But what researchers at institutions like the National Institutes of Health are just beginning to understand is that this state of deep trust, of absolute, visceral safety, is the final master key that unlocks the full potential. Which brings us to the mind-blowing revelation that connects it all. The stunning twist that bridges the centuries between their struggle and your rest. The very struggle of our ancestors, their nightly ingenious collective fight for a single night of warm, safe sleep, is the exact same biological imperative that drives your sleep tonight. Their victory is your neurological inheritance. The warmth that they fought for is the signal your brain still waits for. The safety they found in community is the safety your nervous system craves to perform its most profound healing. You are not just sleeping. You are participating in an ancient, sacred ritual of restoration. Every slow, synchronous wave of delta brainwave sleep is a tribute to their resilience. Every dream is a story woven on a loom they built. The ember they so carefully banked against the bitter cold is the same steady, unwavering light of your own consciousness, always there, always glowing, always ready to guide you back to rest, to peace, to wholeness. So now, that inner ember glows softer and softer, its light becoming more diffuse, more gentle, spreading throughout your entire body. The waves of Your feet are heavy, warm, and safe. Your ankles and calves are heavy, warm, and safe. Your knees and thighs are heavy, warm, and safe. Your hips and pelvis are heavy, warm, and safe. Your stomach and lower back are heavy, warm, and safe. Your chest and heart are heavy, warm, and safe. Your shoulders are heavy, warm, and safe. Your upper arms are heavy, warm, and safe. Your elbows, forearms and wrists are heavy, warm, and safe. Your hands and fingers are heavy, warm, and safe. Your neck is heavy, warm, and safe. Your jaw, your cheeks, your eyelids are heavy, warm, and safe. Your forehead and scalp are heavy, warm, and safe. All you can hear is the sound of your own slow breathing and the distant, friendly crackle of a banked fire and the soft, whispering rustle of straw as you sink deeper and deeper into a rest that was earned, not by the struggles of your day, but by the
Chapter 5. Echoes of Forgotten Kingdoms. As the fire of history dims to embers, we wander into the echoes of kingdoms long forgotten. Their walls have crumbled into dust, their palaces swallowed by roots and silence. Yet their voices remain, a faint murmur beneath the weight of centuries. Imagine the great halls of Egypt, where pharaohs once walked among columns carved with stories of gods and rivers. The golden sun lit their temples, and the Nile carried the lifeblood of a civilization that believed itself eternal. Yet today, the sand covers their whispers, leaving only broken statues staring into the horizon. Across the east, the mighty Persian Empire stretched with roads and gardens, its rulers commanding armies and poets alike. In Persepolis, fires once blazed for ceremonies of kingship, but Alexander's march turned its splendor into ash. Still, the stones remember. Walk among them, and you can almost hear the chants of forgotten priests, the rustle of silk, the fragrance of incense fading into the night. To the north, the Goths, the Vandals, and tribes whose names survive only in fragments of chronicles. Carved lives in forests and mountains. Their songs were carried by the wind, their courage etched in battles long erased. Though they left no grand pyramids, their legacy rests in the bones of Europe, in languages and bloodlines that endure. What ties these vanished worlds together is not their power, nor their wealth, but the reminder that nothing lasts. Even the grandest throne will one day be empty. Even the loudest voice will soften into a whisper. Yet in that impermanence, there's a strange kind of peace. For if empires fall, so too do sorrows. If marble cracks, so too does fear. Tonight, as you drift into rest, let these echoes guide you, not to mourning for what is lost. Part 1. Fredegund of Neustria. History is not always sharp edges and loud voices. Sometimes it is a tapestry woven with whispers, secrets, and silence. Tonight, we begin with a queen, a woman both feared and remembered. Her name was Fredegund of Neustria. She was born around the year 547 in obscurity, a servant girl, unnoticed, living at the edge of greatness. And yet, history would remember her as one of the most ruthless women to ever wear a crown. Imagine the Frankish court, vast wooden halls lit by torches, filled with the murmur of men plotting, women whispering, children watching silently from corners. At the very edges of this world stood Fredegund, listening, learning, waiting. She caught the eye of King Chilperic I, at first a servant, then a consort, then a queen. But queenship was never safe, and Fredegund knew survival meant striking first. Her rivals disappeared, some through scandal, some through blood. Queen Audovera, gone. Princess Galsvintha, strangled in her bed. Stepchildren who stood between her sons and the throne. silenced forever. Fredegund's name became a whisper of fear. Enemies avoided her. Allies respected her. She was both shadow and steel. Her greatest rival was Brunhild of Austrasia. Two queens locked in a silent war, pulling kingdoms into endless battles. Letters filled with venom. Armies marching at their command. A feud that spanned decades, shaping the destiny of nations. Even her husband, King Chilperic, could not escape. In 584, he was murdered, stabbed after a hunt. Some said enemies. Others whispered Fredegund. But she survived, ruling as regent for her son, Clotaire II. And though her reign was filled with shadows, she succeeded. Her son would one day unite the Frankish throne. Her legacy was written not in love, but in blood. When she died in 597, she left behind not peace, but power. A servant who became a queen who became a shadow of fear. Now, her story fades like a candle in the night, a whisper, a flicker, a memory. Part 2, Roman Drinking Games. Now let us drift further back, to ancient Rome, a city of marble, fountains, and endless feasts. The Romans loved wine. To them, it was not just a drink, but a way of life. In their banquets, they invented games, playful, strange, and sometimes foolish. The most famous was Kottabos. Picture a dining hall lit by oil lamps, mosaics glittering beneath reclining guests. Each guest swirled the last drops of wine in their cup, then flicked them across the room at a bronze disc balanced on a pole. If the drops struck true, the disc rang like a bell. The crowd cheered, laughed, or teased. But there was more. Players often whispered the name of a lover before they threw. If the wine hit the mark, it meant love returned. If not, laughter filled the air, and perhaps a blush colored someone's cheeks. Roman banquets lasted for hours. Musicians played soft notes on lyres. Poets recited verses. Slaves poured endless cups. Wine mixed with honey, herbs, even seawater. Philosophers said 3 cups were enough. 1 for health, 1 for pleasure, 1 for sleep. But the Romans rarely stopped at 3. Think now, not of drunken noise, but of softness. The sound of wine pouring, the quiet hum of music, the glow of lamps reflected on marble. In these moments, joy, intoxication, and dreams drifted together, until the guests, like you now, were carried gently into sleep. Part 3, the death of Alexander the Great now, further still. To Babylon, to the summer of 323 BCE. Here lay a man who conquered much of the known world. A man who never lost a battle, Alexander the Great. At only 32, his body bore the scars of endless wars. Yet his dreams were vast. Arabia, Rome, worlds still to conquer. One evening, he feasted with his companions. Wine flowed, laughter rose. But then, fever struck. For 12 days, Alexander lingered. Physicians tried remedies. Generals prayed. Soldiers wept. Nothing saved him. Whispers spread. Poison? Or fever from the marshes? No one knew. As he grew weaker, his generals asked, "To whom do you leave your empire?" His fading breath answered, "To the strongest." And with those words, he sealed the fate of his world. On the 12th day, he could not speak. One by one, soldiers passed by his bed, thousands filing silently through the chamber, gazing upon their dying king. And then, in the stillness of night, Alexander, Lord of Asia, Pharaoh of Egypt, King of Kings, breathed his last. The conqueror of the world was gone, but his name remained, not as a man, not as a king, but as a legend. Part 4. The inaugural games of the Colosseum. Now, let us walk into the heart of Rome again, to the greatest amphitheater the world has ever known, the Colosseum. It is the year 80 CE. Emperor Titus stands before his people. 50,000 citizens fill the seats. The games will last 100 days. The gates open. First come the animals: lions, leopards, elephants, bears. The crowd gasps. Children cheer. Then hunters enter. Man against beast. Spears against claws. The sand shifts beneath their struggle. Later come the gladiators. Pairs of men with swords, shields, tridents, nets. The people roar, cheering with their favorites. A gesture from the emperor decides life or death. And then, amazement. The arena floods with water. Wooden ships clash in mock naval battles. The sea itself has come to Rome. For 100 days, the Colosseum thundered with life. A city united in awe. Rome eternal. Rome unshaken. But centuries passed. The voices faded. The stones crumbled. Now the Colosseum stands silent beneath the stars. A ruin, yet eternal. Its arches whispering memories of cheers long gone. So tonight, when you think of those inaugural games, imagine not blood nor violence, but wonder. The awe of a people united beneath the endless sky. Chloe, and so, our journey comes to an end. From the shadows of a queen, to the laughter of Roman feasts, to the final breath of a conqueror, and the roaring crowds of an eternal city. Now the stories fade, like flames dimming in the hearth. Their whispers grow softer, carried away by the night. And you are left in peace, calm, safe, resting, drifting into the deep, gentle sleep of history's embrace. Before we begin, I want you to relax. Lean back, get comfortable, and slip under the blankets. Leave the noise of the day behind, and let your mind drift with me into a long tale from the Middle Ages. A gentle story to carry you slowly into sleep.
Every step, every word. But do not confront him yet. A snake in the dark is less dangerous than one cornered. Let him believe I am blind. Vaynar bowed. As you wish. And like smoke, he vanished from the chamber. Left alone, Alaris sank into her chair, her thoughts spiraling. Her kingdom faced threats from sorcerers and traitors. Yet now, the danger was within her own blood. She whispered to the silent room, her reflection watching her with accusing eyes. If Darius seeks the crown, then he has declared war upon me. Chapter 5. Whispers of the Spymaster. The night had fallen heavy upon Eloria, cloaking the marble halls in silence. Only the faint glow of torches flickered against the walls, throwing long, restless shadows. In the queen's private chamber, Elara stood before a mirror of polished silver. The crown weighed heavily on her head, though she wore no other jewels. Her reflection looked back at her, young, determined, but already touched by the burdens of rule. The door creaked. A figure slipped inside without a sound. Cloaked in black, face hidden beneath a hood, he bowed deeply. "My queen," came the hushed voice of Vaynar, her spymaster. "I bring whispers, though they are poisoned." Alara turned, her eyes sharp. "Speak." Vaynar hesitated only a moment. "Your brother, Prince Darius. He is not what he claims to be." Alara's fingers tightened against the mirror's frame. "What do you mean?" The spymaster's words fell like daggers. "He speaks of a child. His child, hidden beyond the seas. He returns not to protect you, but to prepare the way for his heir. He seeks the throne, my queen, not your safety." For a long moment, silence pressed against the chamber walls. The crackle of the torch was the only sound. Alara's heart hammered in her chest, but her face remained still as stone. "You are certain of this?" "I heard it with my own ears," Vaynar replied. "He spoke to his servant of it. He does not know he was overheard." The queen turned away, her hands curling into fists. Images of her brother flooded her mind. The boy who once defended her from bullies in the gardens, the man who had vanished for years, and the prince who had returned with promises of loyalty. A bitter taste filled her mouth. Had it all been lies? Finally, she whispered, "If what you say is true, then Darius is not only my brother. He is my rival." Vaynar's shadowed face tilted. "What do you command, my queen?" Alara drew a long breath. Her voice was low, but iron hid beneath it. "Watch him. Shall I prepare your robes?" Darius's lips curled in a faint, bitter smile. "The council, the vultures, you mean? They circle already, waiting for me to stumble." Listen hesitated. "They will not dare oppose you openly. Not while the queen still holds you in her favor." At the mention of Alara, Darius's eyes flickered. A storm moved within them, something between admiration and envy. "She is stronger than I imagined," he murmured. "Stronger than the crown itself. But strength can be a danger. Listen, a queen who cannot be swayed becomes unpredictable." The servant bowed his head, knowing better than to answer. Darius rose, pacing across the chamber. His cloak trailed behind him like a living shadow. "They do not know the truth," he said at last. His voice was low, meant only for the walls to hear. "Not Alara, not Kale, not the council. Only you. Listen." The servant dared to glance up. "Yes, my lord." Darius's hand tightened around the goblet until it cracked. Red wine spilled across the floor like blood. "Tell me again," he demanded. "So I remember why I came back." Listen's voice was steady, rehearsed. "Because the child lives, my lord. The child they swore was dead." Darius's breath caught, his eyes narrowing. "A child, my child, hidden away beyond the seas. If she sits on that throne unchallenged, he will never claim his birthright." The room grew colder. Darius whispered, almost to himself, "I did not return to protect Alara. I returned to take what is mine." From the doorway, unseen by either man, a shadow stirred. The queen's spymaster had heard every word. And far away, in the darkened temples of the east, sorceress Nimera smiled when the news reached her. "Even the crown of Aloria," she said, "cannot stand when its heirs are divided." Chapter 3. The Knight's Oath. The moon hung pale above the blood-stained courtyards of Aloria. The banquet hall was silent now, save for the scrape of armor and the muffled weeping of servants as they cleaned away the carnage. Kale stood alone at the steps of the great hall, his sword still at his side, though his gauntlets were off. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what had passed. He had slain a dozen men tonight, but none of them haunted him as much as the sight of his queen, standing against the assassins with a spear in her hands. "Alara," he whispered, though no one heard. He closed his eyes, remembering her voice ringing through the chamber. "The throne will not cower." Every word was carved into his soul, sharpening both his pride and his torment. Behind him, the heavy oak doors creaked open. Alara stepped out, her gown torn and stained, yet she walked as though she wore a crown of fire. "You should rest, Kale," she said softly. "I cannot, your majesty," he replied, bowing his head. "Not while threats still linger at our gates." Her eyes lingered on him, reading the lines of exhaustion in his face. "You have already given more than enough tonight. Were it not for you, I might not stand here." His jaw tightened. "It is my duty. Your life is worth more than mine 1,000 times over." She frowned. "Do not say such things. Eloria cannot be built on the bones of those I cherish." Chapter 4. The Prince's Secret. The dawn broke over Eloria, painting the spires of the palace in hues of gold and crimson. Yet within the eastern tower, shadows clung like cobwebs around Prince Darius. He sat at the window, a goblet of untouched wine in his hand, his dark eyes fixed not on the city, but on the horizon beyond the sea. His jaw was sharp, his bearing regal, yet there was something haunted in his silence. Behind him, his servant Listen entered quietly. "My lord," Listen said, bowing, "the council awaits you. Shall I prepare?"
Chapter 3. The night's oath, the moon hung pale above the blood-stained courtyards of Eloria. The banquet hall was silent now, save for the scrape of armor and the muffled weeping of servants as they cleaned away the carnage. Kyle stood alone at the steps of the great hall, his sword still at his side, though his gauntlets were off. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what had passed. He had slain a dozen men tonight, but none of them haunted him as much as the sight of his queen, standing against the assassins with a spear in her hands. "Ilara," he whispered, though no one heard. He closed his eyes, remembering her voice ringing through the chamber. "The throne will not cower." Every word was carved into his soul, sharpening both his pride and his torment. Behind him, the heavy oak doors creaked open. Ilara stepped out, her gown torn and stained, yet she walked as though she wore a crown of fire. "You should rest, Kyle," she said softly. "I cannot, Your Majesty," he replied, bowing his head. "Not while threats still linger at our gates." Her eyes lingered on him, reading the lines of exhaustion in his face. "You have already given more than enough tonight. Were it not for you, I might not stand here." His jaw tightened. "It is my duty. Your life is worth more than mine 1,000 times over." She frowned. "Do not say such things. Eloria cannot be built on the bones of those I cherish." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Cale's heart pounded, torn between the knight he was sworn to be and the man who longed to speak words forbidden. He clenched his fist against the urge. Instead, he knelt upon the cold marble, lowering his head. "Then hear me, my queen. Before the gods and the stars, I renew my oath." Ilara's breath caught as he spoke. "I swear upon my life and my honor, no blade shall touch you while I yet draw breath. No crown shall fall from your head while I yet stand. My sword, my shield, my soul, they are yours until death takes me." His words carried the weight of iron, each one a chain binding him tighter to her fate. Ilara's eyes glistened, though she masked it with regal calm. Slowly, she reached down and touched his shoulder, not as a queen to a knight, but as a woman to the one who had bled for her. "Rise, Kale," she whispered. "Your oath is already written in your deeds." He rose, though his chest ached with unspoken truth. For in his heart, he swore another vow he could never utter: to love her until the stars themselves burned out. From the shadows of the courtyard, unseen, a pair of eyes watched, the gleam of Prince Darius, his lips curved, unreadable. Whether it was suspicion, jealousy, or quiet admiration, none could tell. And far across the sea, the sorceress Nemira whispered to her spies, "Strike at the knight first. Break his oath, and the queen's heart shall follow." Part 3. The banquet shattered into panic. Nobles screamed, overturning goblets of wine as guards rushed toward the wounded soldier. Outside, the clash of steel and the roar of fire echoed through the night. Ilara rose sharply from her throne, her crimson gown sweeping like flame. "Kyle!" He was already moving, sword drawn, his voice cutting above the chaos. "Protect the queen! Form a shield wall around the dais!" But even as guards scrambled, the heavy doors of the Hall of Radiance burst inward. A torrent of masked figures surged through, assassins cloaked in black, their blades glinting red in the torchlight. The nobles shrieked, scattering like frightened birds. Some ducked beneath tables, others fled toward hidden passages. One assassin lunged straight for the dais. Ilara froze for half a heartbeat, until steel flashed between them. Prince Darius. He had drawn a curved Varathan blade, its edge singing as it cut through the intruder. With a swift strike, the assassin crumpled at his feet. Darius turned, eyes burning with defiance. "Your Majesty, stand behind me." Kyle spun at the words, his blade parrying another attacker. Fury ignited in his voice. "She stands behind no man!" Ilara, instead of retreating, seized a fallen spear from the ground. Her grip trembled, but she held it high. "Kyle, Darius, hold the line with me. The throne will not cower." The assassins closed in. Steel clashed, screams echoed, and the grand banquet hall transformed into a battlefield. Kyle fought like a storm, every strike precise, his blade carving a path through the masked killers. Darius moved with equal ferocity, his style foreign yet deadly, swift arcs that felled enemies before they could strike again. At Ilara's side, guards formed a protective circle, yet she refused to remain idle. Twice she thrust her spear, her breath ragged but her resolve iron. Blood stained her gown, though none of it was her own. From the corner of the hall, Lord Venar emerged, his face pale with fear. Yet Ilara caught the glimmer in his eyes, not terror, but satisfaction. She knew then that this attack was no random strike. At last, the final assassin fell, his mask torn away to reveal the branded mark of a shadowbound, Nemera's servants. Silence hung over the hall, broken only by the drip of blood upon marble. Ilara stood tall amid the carnage, her chest heaving. She looked to Kyle, his armor dented, his cheek cut. Then to Darius, his blade still dripping crimson, his eyes locked on hers. "You fight like a king," she said quietly. He bowed his head, though his voice was steady. "And you stand like one, though they call you queen." The words struck her heart, though she masked it quickly. She turned to her trembling council, who had emerged from hiding once the danger had passed. "See it now!" Ilara's voice thundered through the hall. "This was no accident. The shadows are upon us, and still you whisper of marriage and councils. While you conspire, my enemies strike at our very doors. I will not wait to be buried in my own hall." She lifted the blood-stained spear, raising it high before all. "From this night forward, Eloria does not bow, does not beg. We fight, and I will lead." The hall echoed with her words. For the first time, some nobles bowed with true respect, not fear. But in the corner, Venar's smile lingered, a serpent's grin. And far away, in her lair of shadows, Nemera watched through her mirror, her silver eyes gleaming. "Let her gather strength," the sorceress whispered. "The higher she climbs, the sweeter the fall." Part 2. That evening, the palace prepared for a banquet. Less a celebration, more a mask to calm the people and assure them their queen still reigned unbroken. Golden chandeliers burned bright above the Hall of Radiance, their light spilling across marble floors, where musicians played softly. Yet beneath the music lingered tension. Nobles clustered in small knots, whispering behind jeweled goblets. Servants carried trays of wine and roasted meats, but even they exchanged wary glances. Ilara sat upon the dais at the far end, a circlet of silver on her brow, her crimson gown flowing like spilled wine. To those watching, she appeared serene, yet inside her thoughts churned. Let them whisper. Let them doubt. I will not bend. Kyle stood close behind her, ever watchful. His hand never strayed far from his blade, and his eyes scanned the hall with the sharpness of a hawk. Then the herald's voice rose above the music, announcing His Highness, Prince Darius of Varathan. The hall fell into a hush, heads turned as the doors swung open. He entered with measured steps, tall and broad-shouldered, clad in dark blue lined with silver. His hair, black as raven's wing, framed a face both proud and marked by exile. His eyes, storm gray, swept the hall before settling on the throne where Alara sat. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Verithan's prince? I thought he was in hiding. Exiled, wasn't he? A traitor to his own kin. What business is he here? Darius ignored the whispers. He advanced toward the dais, bowing low before Alara. Your Majesty, I come not as a prince of my fractured land, but as a man seeking truth. May I speak? Alara studied him. She had heard of him, a prince stripped of his birthright after civil war tore Verathan apart. Some called him honorable, others cursed his name. You may speak, she said, her tone measured. He lifted his gaze. Your enemies grow bold. Last night's attempt was not the last. Shadows move within your own court. If you seek to survive, you will need allies who owe no loyalty to your treacherous lords. The words struck like iron upon stone. Gasps rose among the nobles. Vaynar's jaw tightened, though he forced a smile. And you offer yourself as such an ally? Alara asked, her voice calm, though her pulse quickened. I offer what I can, Darius replied. Sword, strategy, and the truth others will not speak. Your court rots from within. If you trust only them, you will be betrayed again. But if you trust me, his eyes glimmered, hard and unyielding. Together we might preserve your realm, and perhaps mine. The hall buzzed with murmurs. Some nobles hissed in outrage. Others exchanged uneasy looks. Alara leaned forward upon her throne. Her voice dropped to a dangerous softness. Careful, Prince. In my hall, truth and treason are often separated by the edge of a blade. For the first time, a faint smile touched his lips. Then I pray your blade is swift, Your Majesty, should you find me false. Silence followed. The music had faltered. All eyes fixed upon the dais, waiting for the Queen's word. Alara's decision hung heavy in the air. To welcome him would enrage her council. To reject him might forfeit an ally she desperately needed. Her heart weighed the choice, but before she could answer, the doors at the far end burst open. A guard stumbled in, blood staining his armor. Your Majesty, he gasped. The outer ward. It's under attack. The hall erupted in chaos. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Court. Part 1. The dawn that followed was no dawn at all. Only a dim gray light that crept reluctantly across the skies of Aloria. The bells that tolled the Queen's coronation now rang for vigilance, warning the city that assassins had slipped past palace walls. Rumors had already taken flight like crows. Did you hear? The new queen was nearly slain in her bedchamber. They say shadows walked through the walls themselves. She will not last a fortnight. In the palace corridors, whispers carried farther than footsteps. Every servant's glance lingered too long. Every noble's bow dipped too shallow. It was as though the walls themselves conspired to remind Alara that her throne sat upon quicksand. Yet when she entered the council chamber, she carried herself with calm steel. The chamber was a grand hall, its circular table carved from black wood, surrounded by banners that once honored her ancestors. Now, those banners seemed like faded memories of a brighter age. The lords rose at her arrival, some eagerly, others reluctantly. Lord Vaynar was already there, seated nearest to her father's old place, his silver hair gleaming in the torchlight. His lips curved in a polite smile, but his eyes remained sharp, calculating. Your Majesty, he said smoothly, the council grieves for the danger you faced last night. Truly, it is a reminder that we must act quickly to restore order. The people clamor for stability, for guidance. Ilara took her seat at the head of the table, Kyle standing silently at her side, his presence like a shadow with a blade. "Then guide them," she replied, her voice calm yet edged with iron. "Let the people see that their lords remain loyal to crown and realm, not to their own ambitions." Murmurs flickered around the table. Lord Rowlis coughed into his hand. Lady Miraveth's jeweled fingers tapped impatiently. Venar leaned forward. "Forgive me, Your Majesty, but such words wound those who seek only to serve. We must not let suspicion divide us." "Suspicion?" Ilara's gaze swept the chamber. "An assassin entered my chambers last night. Someone opened doors, removed guards from their posts, and guided them through halls known only to the Palace Council. Tell me, lords, shall I dismiss suspicion when treachery walks so boldly within my walls?" The air grew taut. No one spoke. Kyle's hand rested on his sword hilt. His eyes lingered on each noble, daring them to protest. At last, Lord Venar inclined his head. "Then perhaps, Your Majesty, it is time to strengthen the crown with alliances. Marriage, perhaps. There are many rulers who would gladly bind their fates with yours, to shield Eloria from further unrest." The suggestion struck the chamber like a thrown blade. Marriage. Already they sought to chain her throne with foreign hands. Ilara did not flinch. "Eloria is not a bride to be sold," she said coldly. "Nor am I." Her refusal sparked unease, but she pressed on. "My father once told me, a true ruler does not beg for strength in another's shadow. She carves it from her own. Remember that, my lords." Venar's smile thinned, but he bowed. "As you command, my queen." Yet even as the council dispersed, their whispers followed her like ghosts. And when she left the chamber, Kyle leaned close, his voice barely audible. "You made enemies today, Ilara." "I only revealed the enemies who already existed," she answered. But in her heart, a seed of doubt had been planted. Could she truly hold the realm alone? Chapter 1. The Coronation of Ashes. The palace slept uneasily. Guards patrolled the corridors with torches in hand, their armor clinking in rhythm with the echo of boots on stone. Yet no watchful eye could pierce the silence that crept deeper than night itself. In the Queen's chambers, Ilara sat at her writing desk. A single candle burned low, dripping wax across parchment filled with trembling words. Letters meant for her people, for the lords who still doubted her, for herself. She had rewritten them a dozen times, each draft torn and tossed into the hearth. Sleep called to her, yet her mind would not rest. The memory of Venar's smirk and the noble's half-bows lingered like a thorn. She reached for her goblet of wine, but froze. The flame flickered. The air grew colder. A whisper slithered through the chamber. "Little queen." Ilara's breath caught. Her eyes darted to the balcony doors, shut tight. The curtains stirred, though no wind passed. She stood, heart pounding. "Who's there?" From the shadows of her chamber, a figure detached itself, moving with silent grace. Dressed in black leather, face hidden behind a steel mask, the intruder's blade glimmered faintly in the candlelight. An assassin. Ilara's pulse roared in her ears. She stumbled back, but her voice rose, sharp with defiance. "Guards!" The masked figure lunged. Before the blade could find her, the door burst open. Kyle stormed in, sword drawn, eyes blazing. Steel clashed in a shriek as he intercepted the assassin's strike. Sparks flew across the chamber. "Ilara, run!" Kyle barked, forcing the attacker back. But Ilara did not run. She snatched the heavy candlestick from her desk, clutching it like a weapon. Her body trembled, but her spirit held. She was queen now. Fear could not own her. The assassin moved with deadly precision, each strike aimed to kill. Kale parried fiercely, his strength straining against the intruder's speed. The fight tore across the room, shattering glass, slicing through curtains. At last, Kale drove the assassin toward the balcony. With a cry of rage, he struck, but the blade met only shadow. The figure dissolved into smoke, vanishing through the cracks of the night as if it had never been. Only silence remained. Alara stood frozen, the candlestick still in her hand. Her breath came fast, her chest heaving. The silver circlet had slipped from her brow, lying forgotten on the floor. Kyle turned to her, his face pale but his eyes fierce. "They will not stop," he said grimly. This was but the first. Alara clenched the candlestick tighter, her fear hardening into resolve. She bent down, lifted her crown, and set it firmly back upon her head. "Then let them come," she whispered. "I am queen, not prey, and I will not fall in the shadows." Outside, thunder cracked, though the skies were clear. Far away, in the heart of her dark sanctuary, Nemera smiled, watching through her mirror. "The game begins," the sorceress murmured. "And the queen has chosen to fight." "She is too young," muttered Lord Rallis, his jeweled rings clinking against his goblet. "A child cannot command armies, nor outwit seasoned rulers." "A child," sneered Lady Miraveth, "who dares defy us in open court. Mark my words, Vaynar. If we do not act swiftly, she will slip beyond our control." Vaynar raised a hand, silencing them. His voice was low, sharp as a dagger. "She is fragile, but not foolish. That makes her dangerous. We need more than whispers. We need leverage." The mirrors quivered faintly, though no wind stirred. From the largest pane at the end of the hall, darkness seeped like smoke. A chill spread through the chamber as a figure cloaked in midnight stepped forth. The lords recoiled, some crossing themselves, others clutching their blades. "Be still," Vaynar commanded. "Our ally has arrived." The figure's hood fell back, revealing the pale, cruel beauty of Nemera, sorceress of the old order. Her eyes burned like molten silver, her lips curling into a smile. "So," she purred, her voice echoing as though spoken by many. "The lamb wears the crown. How quaint." One of the lords spat in disgust. "Sorcery has no place in Eloria. If the queen discovers..." His words died as Nemera raised a hand. Shadows coiled around his throat like snakes, choking him until he gasped and fell silent. "No place?" she whispered, her tone silken and venomous. "You lords play with knives and schemes, but it is my power that will break her. Or do you think your petty councils can topple a queen who bleeds with the blood of kings?" Silence fell. None dared to challenge her. Vaynar inclined his head, though tension tightened his jaw. "We are aligned then. You will weaken her spirit. We will erode her throne. Together, the crown will fall into our grasp." Nemera's smile widened. "Oh no, Lord Vaynar. The crown is nothing to me. What I seek is far older, far greater. But fret not. When I am finished, there will be plenty of power for you all, if you survive." The candle flames guttered, plunging the room into near darkness. Nemera's form dissolved back into the mirror, leaving only her laughter lingering like frost in the air. The lords exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time, Vaynar's allies wondered if they had chained themselves to a storm, too wild to control. Meanwhile, high above the palace, Queen Alara stood alone upon the balcony of her chamber. The city stretched before her like a field of stars, yet her heart carried no peace. Kyle had warned her that enemies would strike soon. She could feel it too, in the marrow of her bones, in the way the air thickened, as though the world itself held its breath. Her hand touched the silver circlet on her brow. It felt cold, heavier with every hour. "My father," she whispered to the night. "How do I rule a kingdom that bleeds at its very heart?" No answer came, only the distant toll of a single bell, deep, mournful, and ominous. The Queen of Ashes had taken her throne, and already the shadows gathered to test her.